Hello, everybody, and welcome to 38 Weeks to Go, your weekly podcast about fantasy football. Game week 20 is done, and we have 18 weeks left to go. How was game week 20 for you? Did you get over 42 points? If you did, you're well above the average. If you're like me and you got 29, you're not doing too well. I am currently in free fall. I can't seem to pick. I'm kind of like Crystal Palace right now. I started well, but something happened in December and I have to steady the ship soon before I completely lose it. So with an average of 42, it is clear that collectively we're still not doing as well as we would have liked to do. So what is going on? So let's go over some of the things. We are still believing in Rodgers when we should be having Watkins. The Brighton defense is better than we think, but we're all invested in the attackers and in the wrong attackers. We were counting on West Ham to beat Wolves, and then they were hammered 3-0. Talk about flipping the tables. You have Raya and Arsenal defenders not named Gabriel, and they continue to concede. You have Semenyo and he doesn't score. You removed Evanilson and Krupi Jr. and they don't score. And then they score. You remove Rice because you're told that he has this knee injury, and then he's starting and he scores 2 goals. You bring in Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and then you just watch him hit his chances onto the post. And then finally Cunha scores. And then now you're convinced about Everton's defense, and then what do? They go and concede 4 goals. You finally remove Thiago, and then guess what he does to repay you? He scores a hat-trick. If you're like me, you brought in Harry Wilson right at the end of his great run, and then you give up on him, and then all of a sudden, he scores a goal. You bring in Ekitike because he's been scoring, and then from the minute you bring him on, he stops scoring, and then he doesn't even play. You're still believing in Crystal Palace's defense, so you might have a combination of Gay and Henderson, and then they just continue to lose, and they keep conceding. You have Newcastle attackers, but you have the wrong ones. You still believe in Voltemada, but he comes off the bench. You've brought in Risa, you see his goal disallowed. You bring in Mukiele and Roofs because they're top performing Sunderland defenders, and of course they concede. You bring in your your Spurs defenders, of course they concede. You captain Haaland and you watch him hit the post. You have Foden, you watch him shoot the goal wide. And then you have Chelsea players, you have João Pedro, you watch him do nothing, as he does when you need him to perform. And you have Neto, and you're just watching him miss open chances. You have Palmer, and you realize that you don't know what happened to the Palmer that you used to know. You have a Chelsea defender, but they concede. You have a Man City defender, and then they concede. I think we should approach fantasy in January like it's a new game. I think the ideas that we were holding over the past maybe 2 months, we should let go and just try to start again. Reinvent our imagination of what is happening, or look at your team and see who has been performing, bring them back. There's a shift that needs to happen. Like, for example, are Wolves still a bad team? Probably. But have they won and drawn in their last game? Yes. So that losing streak is over thanks to Manchester United. So should we start looking at them differently? Now, Arsenal have been conceding in the last few goals, in the last few games. So maybe it's time to get off Raya, Is it time to get off Crystal Palace? Probably. Time to get into Watkins? That makes sense. Maybe Brighton defense as well. There are decisions that you can see. Is Reinders back? Who knows? He's had a good month. Is Foden finished? Who knows? He's done nothing for like a month. And of course, now that I'll remove him like I did Harry Wilson, or like Thiago, he's going to perform. It's a roller coaster. But just like it has been over the last few weeks, the great thing about fantasy this week is that the next game week starts tomorrow. It's been a real roller coaster. When it comes to round points, Verbruggen is a top goalkeeper with 7 points. Pope and Jose Sa, 6. Martinez and Roofs have 3. When it comes to defenders, Thiaw from Newcastle is a top performing defender with 17 points. Bueno from Wolves has 11. Collins has 10. Gabriel, Fedikadioglu, Davis have 9. Rice is the top performing midfielder with 17 points, followed by McGinn, who has 15. Ayari has 12. Enzo, Janelt, that Korean guy, have 11. Grealish, Wirtz, Reinders, and Bruno Guimaraes have 10 each. So, as you can tell, midfield king. Rice and Thiaw top performers this game week. Right? Nope. Do you know why? Because Thiago also has 17. So those three are the top players this week. Thiago has 17. Mane from Wolves, who's been looking amazing, has 12. Robbie has 9. Watkins and Evan Nielsen have 7. The highest scoring game of the weekend was Brentford 4, Everton 2. Now, the thing about this game is that the very thing you thought Everton were good at was the one thing they could not do in this game: defend. They looked like they were playing prime Barcelona. They were just unable to stop anything Brentford were trying to do. Brentford scored 4, but honestly, they created chances they could have. If this game had ended 7 or 8, based on the chances they created, it wouldn't have surprised me. Brentford, Thiago was on top form and he could have scored 2 or 3 more goals. It's almost disgusting. I don't know what happened. Grealish was also incredible in this game. He had 2 assists for Barry and Beto. He was super creative. But that's what, I don't know, maybe they need Africa Cup guys to come back. On the other end, Brentford were just a better team. They created more. They just looked sharper. Their movement was better. I'm sure Thomas Frank was just looking at them, wondering why he left. It's a good team. They are much more impressive than I thought they are. So believe in them. Believe in Thiago. Just keep him and forget him. Thiago had a hat-trick and Collins had the other goal. Janelt had 2 assists. Collins had 1 and Shada had the other assist. Barry and Beto scored off 2 assists from Grealish. As you can imagine, Thiago had 3 bonus points, Grealish had 2, and Janelt had 1. The marquee game saw Manchester City take on Chelsea and draw 1-1. Based on the quality of chances, Manchester City probably deserved to win in a high-scoring game, maybe 4-3, 3-2, whichever you win, because Pedro Neto should have scored, but also Haaland hit the post, Foden took the ball wide. Just the quality of chances was higher from Manchester City. And it's the kind of game where if you're on the title run, this is the kind of game that you win by mistake. And they just didn't seem to have that luck of champions that previous teams might have had. Because even the equalizer was like in the dying minutes of the game. And so it was heartbreak proper. And now Arsenal have gotten a 6-point lead at the top. So it was a very painful drop of points for many reasons. Rangers scored a really good goal, a tight angle, good finish, no real assist there. And Enzo as well, it was like he shot that ball many times to get it to go in. He got the bonus points, all 3 of them. Rangers had 2 and Rodri had 1. Good to see Rodri back. I would say the real disappointment of the week is Wolves 3, West Ham 0. Now, ever since Wolves brought in Mane, 4.5, over the last 2-3 weeks, they have looked a different side. I don't know what he has done. I don't know if he's playing with... I don't know what he's doing, but the team has changed. Their approach has changed. They seem to be clicking in a way that they weren't before. You know how I just spoke earlier about Manchester City not having the luck of champions? Well, Wolves had been having the luck of relegation teams, where everything just seems to go against them. But in this one, it just felt like, oh, this is the Wolves I remember. They are a good team. There's a good side in there. They're not as bad as their points are. And even if they get relegated, they have the capacity to be better than they're showing. And this game was a perfect example. It has taken a very long time, 20 game weeks, but Arias has finally shown up. The Korean guy scored a penalty, and Mane scored a really good goal. Bueno had an assist. The Korean guy, Hwang Hee-chan, had the assist, and Mane also had an assist. West Ham did have some chances, but they didn't take them and were punished. I'm not even wondering if our boy Nuno will last. Mane got the 3 bonus points, Bueno got 2, and Arias got 1. And that was the most surprising and disappointing game of the game week. Let's look at some stats. Timed at 93.53, Cody Gakpo's goal for Liverpool was the 4th latest on record from 2006 or 7 that a side took a lead in a Premier League match without then going on to win. And the last time this happened was March in 2024. And now I'm wondering how Gakpo felt after getting an unnecessary yellow card for taking off his shirt, having thought he had scored the winner. Leeds are now on a 7-match unbeaten run. They've won 2, drawn 5, and it is their longest such run since November 2001, when they were managed by the great David O'Leary. Martin Zubimendi won possession 12 times in the victory over Bournemouth. It is the most by an Arsenal player in any of their matches this season. Talk about, the work that goes unseen. So, yeah, that's what he does. It's like a baby Rodri. Arsenal are the 16th Premier League team to win 15 or more of their first 20 games in a season, with only 4 previous sides failing to win the league in that campaign. Arsenal in 2022-23, Liverpool and Spurs in 2018-2019, and Manchester United in 2003 or 4. In his 296th appearance in the Premier League, Declan Rice scored his first ever brace. So in case you're over here thinking it's time to bring in Rice because he can score many goals, that was the first time he has scored more than 1 goal in a game in his career in the Premier League. Because I know you're about to be, he scored 2 free kicks against Real Madrid. Yeah, that was also his first time to do that. In the last 2 seasons, the only 2 times that the 20th position have led by 3 goals in a Premier League match have both been against Nuno Espirito Santo. Talk about an unwanted record. West Ham were 20th last season when West Ham beat Nottingham Forest 3-0. And Wolves beat West Ham 3-0. That's unwanted records right there. This was the first time Wolves were up by 2+ goals in a Premier League game since April. And they had gone 12 consecutive matches without taking the lead at any point. This will really do wonders for their belief. Another unwanted record for Nuno Espirito Santo. Following the Wolves opener at the Molineux, the only manager on a longer run without a clean sheet than Rob Edwards, which was 25, is now Nuno Espirito Santo, whose team has not had a clean sheet in 26 matches. Speaking of braces, John McGinn has scored a Premier League brace for the very first time. It was his second brace in 3-11 appearances. His other brace was not in the Premier League. When it comes to DEFCON, I've just finished telling you how Zubimendi won the ball 12 times. He is number 1 in DEFCON points this week. He has 21 actions. Florentino Luis also has 21 actions. Hill and Casemiro are tied with 18 actions. And Thiaw, Kamara, Joelinton, and Ugarte are tied as well with 17 actions. Haaland was the most selected player this game week. He is the most captained player this game week. Top transferred in player is, as you guessed it, Gabriel, 345,000. Rice, 278,000. Thiago, 220,000. Watkins, 175,000. Rogers, 130,000. Top players out, Ekitike, 237,000. Foden, 125,000. Timber, 117,000. Voltemada, 114,000. Semenyo, 109,000. The highest points this week was 117. The average points were 42. So if you got 42 or above, well done. If you didn't, thankfully the game week starts tomorrow. So Bowen 747, great team name, is number 1. They got 117 points. They had Thiago up top for 17 points. João Pedro, 2 points. Reinders, 10. Captain Rice, 34 points. Bruno Guimaraes, 10 points. Morgan Gibbs-White, 8 points. Lewis Hall, 6. Thiaw, 17. Gabriel, 9. Timber, 3 points. And Dubravka, 1. And that's how they got 117 points. In our group, Joe Bogwa was a top performer with 76 points. In goal, they had Raya with 1 point, Senesi 1 point, Van de Ven 7 points, Timber 3 points, Rice, who came off the bench, 17 points, Semenyo 1, Wilson 6, Bruno Guimaraes 10, Cunha 9, Captain Haaland 4, Thiago 17. And that's how they got 76 points. Second highest in the group was Suraj Baigane, 73 points. And then for 3-4-5, it's a 3-way tie with 70 points. Madagani Kihoro, 70. Randy Gusta, 70. Emmanuel Ogbogu, 70. On the other end of the table, Morunga Manyara, 8 points. I thought I would be there because I got 29, but they're always better and they're always worse persons than you are. Misery loves company. So, as we've probably discussed before, this is a set and forget team, and it's not going well. Kelleher, 2 points. Rico Lewis, 0. Kukureya, 0. Rhys James, 1. Gordon, 2. Captain Salah, 0. Sar, 0. Kudus, 1. Cullen, 0. Jokeres, 2. Ekitike, 0. And that's how they got 8 points. So, number 2 was 21 points, which was Dennis Mutua and Ibrahim Ali. Then for the 4, 5, and 6 is 23 points by Angulanayo, Regan Orina, and Ilyasa De Bruyne. As you've just had, Ilyasa De Bruyne had 23 points on his whole pitch. On his bench, he had 37 points. That's painful. Verbruggen, 7. Thiago, 17. Van de Ven, 7. Van Herke, 6. So painful. Ron Chisaka had 26 points. Victor Nyabola, 25. Peter Kimani, 24. Eli Joroge, 23. Goodness. Joe Bogwa's team had 8 goals scored by his players. Well done. That's better than last week's miserable 4. Joe Bogwa again had the best midfield. His midfield had 43 points in our league. Texas stands. His team has the best defense this week with 36 points gained by his players. The biggest differential in our group this week is Thiaw, who's only owned by 2% of the managers for an incredible return of 17 points. Number 2 is Hwang Hee-chan, who is somehow owned by 1% of us, and he returned 11 points. Enzo, 3% of us, 11 points. Collins, 2% of us, 10 points. Now, when it comes to the most transfers made, Gerald Juma, 5 points. Reeve Masime, 5 transfers rather. And Kaiser Sose all made 5 transfers. Mr. Don Clinton made 4 transfers, and then Telvin Mudoga, Black Adam, Mistaken, Melvin Asakanya, Mark Maura, Michael Miner, Elin Joroge, Mike Wow, and G-Star Glitz, and Anton N made 3 transfers each. Wow, so many people made many transfers. Well done, guys. I hope it's helping you move in the direction you want it to. Peter Kimani had the best transfer outcome in that he didn't lose any points, but from the changes he made, he got 25 points. Number 2 is Black Adam, who gained 15 points. G-Star Glitz, 14 points, along with Anton N. And then in number 5 is Steven Kiarie and Kojo Danso, who made a gain of 12 points from the transfers made. Keep it up, guys. When it comes to the other end, just losing points based on the transfers you made, Simnanijo Young Muller baby leads the way with minus 26 points. Like he could have, if he did nothing, he would have been 26 points better. Khalid Mohammed, 26 as well. Eric Muranga, 22. Kaiser Sose, who made 26, who made 5 transfers, lost 16. Terence Nigel, 16 as well, lost. Moses Chege, 16 points as well, lost. Edin Jorge, 16. And Telvin Mudoga, 16 as well. Colin Skoggy has the best team value so far. His team is valued at 105.8. Lowest team value is Angulanayo, who has a valuation of 97.2. Keith Njagi has added 0.6 to his to his team value. Teddy Mwalo has lost 1.2 million in value. Goodness, what the hell did he do? Joe Bogo has jumped 1.1 million positions globally. Ibrahim Ali has dropped 863,000 ranks globally. Vic Nyademo is on fire, and this is his 8th week in a row of just making good decisions. Teach us your ways, brother. On the other end, Mistaken has been crumbling for a while, and it's 3 red arrows in a row, followed by Skyscraper, Anton N, and Mozart J, which is tied for 7 weeks in a row. In our league, John Bogo has jumped up by 34 points. Well done to you. Sadiq S. Suleiman is not doing so well, and he has dropped 23 positions along with Ilayasa De Bruyne. When it comes to captain choices, 134 of us chose Haaland. 9 of us chose Ekitike. 8 of us chose Saka. Another 6 chose Foden. 4 chose Palmer. 3 chose Cunha. Another 3 chose Salah. Another 3 chose Rodgers. Another 2 chose Wood. Another 2 chose Watkins. Another 2 chose Gabriel. Then Calvert-Lewin, Voltemada, Gyökeres, Bowen, Paqueta, Hudson-Odoi, Bruno Guimaraes, Gordon, Grealish, Gakpo, Wirtz, Raul, Mateta, João Pedro, Schade, Mbumo, Semenyo, and Trossard were captained by 1 manager each. When it comes to our table, Arnold Midunga is still on top with 1239 points. Alan Mchangi is still second with 1229 points, so there's a 10-point gap. Leon Moti has jumped up the table to number 3. He has 1227 points. Charles Cardavillis has jumped up the table as well, and he's number 4 with 1216 points. Papi Chulo has dropped down to number 5 with 1211 points. Malaganiki Horo has jumped up the table. He was out of the top 10 last week. Now he's back. 1211 points. In number 7, Jeffrey Jeremy has got 1209 points. Number 8, King Kev, 17, has 1205 points. John Wangemi is number 9 with 1195 points, which is a tie with Amos Langat, who has 1195 points. So, number 1 has 1239 points. Number 25 is 100 points below him with 1139 points. So, if you're not quite there, that's the mark for where 100 points is. There is still like 18 weeks left to go, so there is opportunity for us to make changes. At the other end of the table, we have Mark Maura, who's holding the bottom with 426 points. Right above him is Don Clinton, who has 626 points. Murunga with his 8 points has 735 points. Mike Mbogo has 736 points. And Timo Dera is rounding up the bottom 5, or is it rounding down? The bottom 5 at number 190, and he has 773 points. Number 1 in the world is Henry Huyn. His team has 1384 points. In his team, Verbruggen is his keeper, 7 points. Van Hecker, 6. Collins, 10. Van Dijk, 1. Thiaw, 17. Foden, 2. Bruno Guimaraes, 10. Gordon, 2. Schade, 6. Haaland, 4. Bowen, 4. And that's how number one's team in the world looks like, in case you're thinking of changing your team and you don't know what to do. Maybe just copy the best in the world. It might be that simple. Gameweek 21 is upon us, and it is tomorrow on Tuesday. So our break hasn't quite come just yet. And it kicks off with West Ham against Nottingham Forest, otherwise known as a Nuno Espirito Santo derby. Now, what to do? If you believe in West Ham, Owen, Mateus Fernandes are your top picks, along with Paqueta, but Paqueta did not play the last game, so he may not play this one. On the other end, Morgan Gibbs-White, Igor Jesus, and Hudson-Odoi are your best bets. Bournemouth versus Spurs. Semenyo has 2 games left here. So him, Mr. Krupi, and Evan Nilsson are your best bets. For Spurs, it seems like if you have a defender right now, if you choose Van de Ven or Romero, one of them will do well. Maybe not Romero, he's a bit of a wild card. But he can score and also get sent off in the same game. Anything's possible with him. Both teams did not do as well as they would have liked, just like West Ham and Forest. So all of these teams will be looking to do better. Richarlison, Tell, and maybe Kudus would be the best bets for Spurs, and I also think a defender. Brentford versus Sunderland. This will be an interesting game. Brentford were immense last time out, and you've seen Thiago has been brought in by everybody, so they'll be hoping for a massacre. Another hat-trick from him against Sunderland, but Sunderland are a better team than Everton. I know. Who thought we'd be talking like that about Sunderland? So it might not be an easy game. So we've got Thiago, Schade, and maybe Janelt, a good bet for Brentford. For Sunderland, Enzo Lefebvre, Robbie, Mukiele. Crystal Palace versus Aston Villa. Crystal Palace are in poor form right now, and I'd encourage you to just keep getting out of them. They're not worth having at this moment. But should you still be insistent, you could choose Mateta, Gay, and maybe Brennan Johnson. On the Aston Villa end, you have to start with Watkins, and then McGinn, and Morgan Rogers. Everton versus Wolves. On paper, this is what you would think would be an easy game for Everton, and I'm hoping it will be. But Wolves have just shown that they can surprise you, and you can't quite ignore that. So, if you believe in Wolves, I would say the first player you should have is Mane. Second player, maybe Hwang Hee-chan. And then third, Arias. Why not? I always wanted to talk well about him ever since watching him in that Club World Cup. Everton, Grealish. Then maybe Tarkowski, and maybe choose Beto or Thiaw. One of them. Fulham take on Chelsea. Both teams drew, got respective draws. I mean, not even respective draws, but respectable draws. And both teams will be looking to do better. If you believe in Chelsea, maybe you have Neto, Enzo, and João Pedro. Palmer is just too expensive to do nothing. Fulham, it has to be Harry Wilson, Raul Jimenez, and maybe Robinson. Man City versus Brighton. You know it's just going to be Haaland, Shecky, Reinders. Brighton, should you believe in them? I would say Jorginho Rota, maybe, what is this other guy called? Minte. And yeah, that's it. But I also wouldn't get into Brighton for this fixture. Burnley take on Manchester United. And this might be the first game where I can believe in the Dubravka clean sheet, because Manchester United are just a funny team. And they always tend to disappoint when you think they should win. I thought they would beat Wolves, and they couldn't. So they can be gotten at, as they have always been able to concede. So Cunha is the best bet right now. And Zexi for Man United. Burnley, Cullen, Fleming, Broja. Arsenal, okay. Newcastle take on Leeds. And both teams had good results over the weekend and be looking to do better. If you believe in Newcastle, you could have Thiaw at the back, Guimaraes in the middle, and maybe Gordon or Wissa, because it seems that since Wissa's comeback, Voltemada has been put to the bench. I don't know what's happening there. On the Leeds end, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Okafor, and Aronson are your best bets. Arsenal take on Liverpool, which will be the marquee game of the game week. And I don't have much faith in Liverpool, but should you believe in them, hoping Ekitike is back? Ekitike, Gakpo, and Wirtz. Wirtz seems to have woken up. On the Arsenal end, Saka didn't start the last game, probably in anticipation of this game. So I believe he will start. Rice and Gabriel, those three. When it comes to choosing a captain, looking at the West Ham Forest game, Gibbs White or Bowen could be a good shout out. And the Spurs game, if you told me Semenyo or Evan Nilsson, I wouldn't fight you. Richarlison or maybe Tell, although I wouldn't choose any of those in this game. Brentford, Thiago, you can't ignore his hat trick, so he's a good one. Maybe Brobby as well. Crystal Palace versus Aston Villa, Watkins is the best captain in this game. Everton versus Wolves, if you're a bit of a gambler, I would say Mane or Grealish. Fulham versus Chelsea, Wilson, and maybe Pedro Neto. That's how bad it is in Chelsea. It's really hard to choose a captain. Man City versus Brighton, Haaland, Rangers, Sheki, Foden. All contenders. On the Brighton end, Minte and Rutter. Burnley, Man United, I would say Cunha is a good captain choice. Newcastle, Leeds. Honestly, Bruno Guimaraes has been great. Dominic Calvert-Lewin has been great. Arsenal versus Liverpool. If Ekitike is not going to play, then Gakpo would be a great choice here. And on the Arsenal end, at this point, if he chose Rice, if he chose Saka, if he chose Gabriel, I wouldn't hold it against you. And with that, we have come to the end of the podcast. It's been a roller coaster and it seems to be not over. The ride is still going on. I'm hoping for a longer break between matches so the podcast can be longer. The time crunch means a time crunch everywhere else. Have a great day of rest and we'll see you on the pitch tomorrow. Bye.